Nutrition Depot, your fitness fuel. Okay, welcome back to Nutrition Depot podcast. I'm Tim Nutrition, and today I am feeling quite excited and a little bit nervous because we have two lovely ladies here with me. We have Inka, who is a content creator, a podcaster, and a voiceover talent.
Hello.
There we go. And also, we have Val, who is a content creator, TV and events host.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi Nutrition Depot listeners. Hello.
All right. So, my question to you ladies is wearing all these hats, having multiple roles that you're filling, how important is fitness and nutrition to you ladies?
It's hi Tim. It's so important because there was a time when I was working that I really didn't make time for fitness or making sure that I have a healthy diet because the excuse, or like not excuse, but the reason I always tell myself is I'm so busy. I'm too busy to do this. I don't have time. And this is true for so many people, but with our line of work kasi, it's such a flexible it's flexi time kasi for us. So I realized, no, I have to make time. So I know what it's like without the fitness. And then now that I've taken it more seriously, I can feel the positive effects of fitness and health in my productivity.
Right.
So it's so important. Long way to say it's important.
Love
Yes,
it.
actually you won't feel how important it is up until naging habit na siya.
Yeah,
and
until you do
lifestyle
it.
Because people, my friends who knew me from like way back, they're so shocked that I'm active now because I was so
talaga?
lazy before.
Really?
As in, totoo ba yan? Nagji-gym ba yan? Totoo talaga. Kasi parang mga 5 years ago, I started working out. Tapos yung mga 2 times or 3 times a week lang. Tapos feel ko fit na ako. Alam mo yung newbie?
Yes,
You just
yes.
move a little, feeling mo fit ka na.
Yeah.
Up until during the pandemic, that's when I really invested time and energy and effort in taking care of my body and myself. I saw the difference physically, pero shallow lang yon. But the energy difference.
Yeah, on the inside.
And the self-esteem and self-confidence. You know what I realized?
Yeah.
When I started working out, nag-trickle down yung effects. Really.
Right.
Like parang I woke up earlier.
oh, same.
I became
actually.
more proactive in
Yeah.
life. Parang yung exercise was just the tip of the iceberg. It trickled down to all aspects of my
Like
life.
the feeling good in your body,
Yes,
like
yes.
the parang what you see in the mirror and it looks good. That's just the tip of the
yes,
iceberg.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so-
Right. Actually, those are very valid points because
Thank you.
in terms of like the entire fitness na journey. So I professionally coach a lot of clients, like not just athletes in general, but also the general population, like typical office workers or even freelancers,
nice.
self-employed people, where you get to manage your own schedule.
Yeah.
And most people don't understand how hard it is to manage yourself. That if you
Yeah.
don't have like a daily structure to just follow, it's a 9 to 5, you go into work, you go out, it's harder because if you don't have the general structure, you need to go like, okay, I need to make time for this. And then where do I stop working so I can take care of myself?
Yeah, where can I fit this into my schedule? 'Cause
Exactly.
you're always like, no, but I can use this time to finish this project for this client or whatever, right?
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. So typically, when people start going into fitness, the first intro is exercise. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sets the cornerstone. That sets the foundation.
Yeah,
for
because that's
everything.
how it was for you, I bet also. Because for me, like when I realized that I wasn't healthy, I was like, I need to work out.
Exactly. Like,
You
I
know?
gotta work out.
I wasn't
now.
even thinking of my food.
Right.
Right. I was just like, I need to move, I need to work out, which is true also.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
true. Yeah. And then from there, people start going a level beyond. Wherein, okay, I'm working out, I'm very consistent. I'm working like Val said, 3 times a day, 3 times a week, right? And I feel better.
Yeah.
And then you know the thing about people is that they really don't get contented. So
Yeah.
at some point, you just go like, okay, I'm working out 3 times a week. What's next?
How do
Now-
you progress?
Right?
Oo.
Yeah.
Kasi
Hindi ka man that point.
Now I want abs. Like
At
that.
a certain point, you will plateau naman, di ba? And kahit ano naman yung fitness level mo, you will plateau. So, dapat talaga you progress. So, after nga yung we exercise, we realize na parang food is as important or even more important. Di ba we hear these quotes na parang fitness is 80%.
Nutrition.
Yeah.
It's made
Or like
in food.
abs are
made in the
like
kitchen.
abs are made in the kitchen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. So my question now is, how did you transition that? Because like you both said that you started working out, right?
Yeah.
And then how did you start your nutrition journey?
For me, it was more trial and error. I do have a coach, pero every time she would tell me na, oh, ganito, watch what you eat. Personally,
What does that mean?
My mindset was like, no, I know what I want to do. Medyo stubborn ka eh. You have your own misconceptions or myths in your head. So it took a while of trial and error, like several months or even years na parang, okay, I really have to be mindful of the carbs that I eat. Okay lang naman to eat rice, but syempre in moderation. So up until now, I still struggle with it. It's still a challenge for me. So trial and error.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's same thing for me. I think because I grew up in a family that's always been health conscious.
Right.
Like my dad has abs. He's
Wow.
63.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got really nice. I know, right?
Congrats,
He's got
right?
nice biceps and stuff. My mom was an athlete all her life and all these things. So I'm very health conscious. Like when I was a kid, my dad used to make wheatgrass shots for all of us.
Oh, wow.
Yung ganon.
Way before it was cool pa. Kasi
Yeah.
medyo common na
Yeah,
siya.
juicing, mga ganyan.
Right.
We bought our own juicer. Wala pang mga juice smoothie stuff dito.
Right,
That's what
right.
we would do already. So I've always been kind of conscious of that. But it's still a trial and error because each body is unique.
Right.
Diba? So
Correct.
like, for example, I learned that I have PCOS, I have sensitivities to carbs and all these things. So it's really been like watching out for how my body feels. Like every time after I eat something, I get to digest. It's like, how do I feel now? It's like an acute awareness of how the
Right.
food makes my body feel. But that's because I've always been conscious. Like when I think about like the people who just want to get started in fitness, who don't know anything about like fitness or nutrition, like where do you even begin, right? Like I was working out and one of my friends who just started working out was just like talking about like fitness, and it's always like calorie in, calorie out,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, the
Like
entire
calorie
calorie
deficit, ganyan. And then my friend goes, "What's a calorie anyway? Like we know what it is, but ano yung calories?" And I was like, "Oo nga no," because like I just know what it is.
Yeah, we see it everywhere.
Yeah,
Right.
but like from a nutritionist standpoint, how can you explain what a calorie is?
Okay, so if we're technically to define what is a calorie, okay, in the simplest form, it's a unit of measurement. You know how like you measure your weight in pounds, in kilos? We measure energy through calories.
So it's like a watt
Yeah,
in light.
Exactly.
Parang ganon.
It's
Yeah.
a watt in light. It's a joule.
Electricity, yeah.
Right. So basically, calories, a kcal with a capital K, kilocalorie, is basically the amount of energy you need outside the body, to raise a temperature of water by 1 degree Celsius.
A temperature of water?
Technical na pala yan.
Technical
ano?
na siya.
Oh, I
right?
didn't know that.
So in the
Okay.
most basic form, the unnuanced answer is basically calories is equals to energy. And
Right.
that's it.
So parang if people were light bulbs,
Yeah.
like what a watt is to a light bulb to power it, calories are to humans.
Yes. Perfect. You got it. Love it. Right?
Okay,
so that's
okay.
the most basic understanding of calories, right?
Yeah.
Now, us, we're just vessels of calories. We're vessels of energy. So the more calories you consume, we call that a surplus.
Right.
That means you eat more than what you expend. What happens to that vessel? It starts to grow.
Right.
Right? So you gain weight. That's the
Right.
most basic concept.
Yeah.
Right? If you do the reverse, wherein you eat less calories than what you burn, the vessel will start to shrink.
Calorie deficit.
Exactly. That's a
I
calorie deficit.
see.
Question lang, no? If you've more calories, does it necessarily translate to fat?
Good question.
Good question.
So there are specific stimuli. Okay, the stimuli is basically reasons for your body to put things in certain order. So think of it this way: may handbag kayo. Okay, you're start to put stuff in your handbag. Now you notice that there are certain compartments in your handbag that are used for what? Certain stuff, right? Like the laptop.
Like you put the money
compartment,
there,
put
you
the
put
money
your
there.
wallet here,
Exactly.
whatever, like
right?
yours. Yeah.
So those compartments serves as stimuli so that the things that you put in don't go to the wrong places.
Okay, the body is so interesting.
Right. So, going back to Val's question, how do you, if you eat in excess, does it automatically store to fat? Not necessarily. Okay? In the sense where if you exercise and there's enough stimuli, some of it can go to muscle building.
So yung excess calories is not necessarily bad.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, it's not exactly bad, but without the stimuli, it could be bad.
Without the stimuli.
Without exercise.
Exactly,
I
without exercise.
see.
Okay.
Right? So it really goes hand in hand, nutrition and exercise, where if you want to eat more, you do have to put in the proper exercise or the stimuli in order for the energy to go somewhere beneficial.
And the other way around, right? Like if you want to build muscle, like you have to eat more also.
Yeah, exactly.
So yung excess na calories na yun should be like nutritious? Kailangan ba protein siya?
Is there like
There you go.
there's a thing, right? The good or bad food. People tend to like categorize food as like, "Hindi, that's bad food for you," or
Right.
like, "This is the good food. This is what you should eat."
Right. Okay, so the thing about the good food, bad food thing, so this has been stemming since the 1980s, where dietary control message from the government is literally have more of these things, have less of these things. So what happened there? Why did we start saying good food, bad food, clean versus dirty eating? Okay, at the end of the day, there's really no good or bad food. Okay, so at the end of the day, calories coming from food is calories. They're all created equal, right? So as long as you put in food, it will equate to something based on whatever stimuli or exercise you put in. So breaking down the sources of those calories, yes, of course, you want it to be nutritious. Most of the time. That's the key word, most of the time.
Nutritionally dense food. That's what I hear.
Exactly, nutritionally dense. You want to have like certain vitamins, minerals, just to help your body along to put things in order.
Because it's more efficient, right? If you're gonna
Yes.
eat something, might as well
It might
make
as
it
well
like
be
yeah. Okay.
good, right? So it's like saying if you bought something, if you bought something cheap,
Right.
it has a tendency to break down faster, right? You buy something higher quality, it tends to stay with you for a long period of time and you get the best bang for the buck out of it, right? So there comes this thing called macros.
Yeah. Yun na kasi calories, everyone knows calories. Pero yung when you start working out, yan mo na maririnig yung macros
Yeah,
What is it ba talaga?
Yeah, like people who want to start working out, like our listeners right now, who are interested in like getting into fitness, you always hear like, what are your macros? What are your macros? Like,
Exactly.
what does that mean now?
Right. Okay. So going back, this entire trend started with a movement called IIFYM. So that's short for if it fits your macros. Okay. So the history here is that people started coming from the transition where there's good food, bad food, and then there's like message boards before. We don't have like Instagram. We don't have Facebook.
Mga forum, gano'n.
Forum, ganon. Wala pa yung Facebook nun. I think that was like, what, MySpace or Friendster
Oh
pa
my
nung-
God.
What
the
are
age
those?
show.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, but before then, it was message boards, okay?
Are you a 90s baby?
I'm a 90s baby. Ayan. So yun, yung time na yun, it was message boards. And people kept asking the question, can I eat this food in my diet? So it goes like, can I eat Cheetos in my diet? Can I eat Crunch?
I was literally thinking of Cheetos, just like...
That's super too. Yeah, right. So anyway, there's this guy who just commented IIFYM. So he blew up the entire message board saying like got everybody excited and curious. Like, what's IIFYM? So there goes your macros. Macros are basically three things. It's your carbs, it's your protein, and it's your fat. So basically, think about your lunch, right? Macros is where the source, or macros is where your calories come from. Wherein a single gram of carbohydrates gives about 4 calories. Same with protein. It gives about 4. Fats are denser, so it gives 9 calories per gram. So in a more technical point of view, as an expert, when I see food, I see,
That's
okay.
what you see.
Yeah, I see rice. Okay, that's carbs.
Yeah.
I see ulam. Okay, might be chicken, fish, pork, or beef. That's protein. Inside that protein, it's cooked. How so? It could be
In
steamed,
fat,
grilled.
ganon,
Yeah, it could
yeah.
be braised. It could be like what sauce topped all to the maximum. So that's fat, right? So these are basically your macros. Now there are certain profiles for macronutrients that will be beneficial depending on the person's goal.
So
There you
first
go.
off, you have to find your goal. You have to determine your goal.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you are a newbie, like you have no idea about anything, you haven't started your fitness journey.
What's your goal first?
Yeah, exactly. So we have this thing
Yeah.
in the coaching circle. We're in the first thing, you know what? You say hi to client. Next question, hi. I'm Tim Nutrition. What's your goal?
Yun. How about you? When you started, Val, what was your goal?
My goal was to lose fat. That was primary, no? Pero now, it's really building muscle while losing fat. Because what I realized is that if you just lose fat, pero wala kang muscle, your physical look is medyo parang frail.
Yeah.
You look skinny
Correct.
fat lang eh.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to build muscle, so you want to look strong.
Yeah.
Feel
Correct.
strong and be really strong.
Actually, you know what? Funny that you say that because when people get into workouts, they are so afraid to build muscle kasi they're like, ay, ayoko parang I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. But you know how hard it is to look like a bodybuilder?
Exactly.
Especially for women.
Yeah, especially for women. And a technical standpoint as well, it's hormonally almost impossible for you to look like a guy unless you
Correct.
are very, very dedicated and you have
And find ways.
artificial
Yes.
Yeah.
help
Correct,
to
correct.
get there.
Because like that's old school thinking din, diba? Because I remember when I started working out, my mom told me, "Hi, mom." She told me she was like, "Oh, don't work out too hard, ha? Why are you lifting like that? How heavy is that dumbbell? Oh, don't get too ano." I'm like, "Mom, it's so hard to get to that
Yeah.
level.
Even if you try, it's like
Even
saying,
if I try.
it's like saying you lifted. You drove a car once and you accidentally became a NASCAR driver.
Yan.
Parang
Or
ganon.
like when they say, parang I don't want to drink a protein shake because I don't want to get too buff. I'm like,
Right. Yeah, no, it's not
So
gonna
sana
happen.
ganun lang kadali, no? Iinom lang ng protein shake.
Exactly. So going back to Val's goal, right? Diba? So there's actually very common, the most common goal, right? You diet. What's people's connotation of diet? It's
Yeah,
lose
lose
fat,
fat. Yeah.
right? Yeah, lose weight. So losing weight is very easy in terms of and from a caloric standpoint, right?
Calorie deficit
Yeah,
lang yan,
deficit.
no?
Exactly. You got it. So you just be on a deficit, you will lose weight. But if you dive deeper into that, what are you losing?
Right.
So this area is called body composition. So what is your body made out of? Is it muscle? Is it fat?
body comp. That's what
Exactly.
I hear too. Yeah.
Quote unquote body comp.
Yeah.
So that ultimately that body comp in terms of aesthetics, it's very important because it ultimately determines what you look like at the end of it. Right?
Yeah.
So do you look skinny and toned? Do you look just soft and skinny? Do you look
Right.
like you just got sick and got out of the hospital thin?
Coach, is it better ba to look at your body composition versus yung weight lang?
Good question. Actually, a lot of people do ask that. And the answer is actually both. So you have to take it into context because everybody's body is different, right? So if I am talking to a person who's, let's say, overweight to begin with, then I would say that you need to get down to a healthier weight first. Manage the size, the mass.
Yeah.
And once you get to a reasonable size, then that's where you start working on body composition. You want to know why? It's because the body composition goals are more advanced because you're dealing not only with a deficit, but you're also dealing with the composition
Of
of
like
your
what you're
meals.
eating.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
So the perfect composition, if we're talking about an ideal setting where it's a lab setting, is basically a balanced diet. So we've coined terms like moderation,
Yeah.
balance, right?
Yeah.
And it's very hard to ascertain. Like, yes, since you were a kid, people have been telling you just eat better.
Yeah,
or
but
eat-
that food pyramid.
yeah,
right,
that
that we
food
learn
pyramid
at school.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Or now it's a plate thing.
It's a plate, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So they coin terms like moderation, balance, but what does it really mean? Right?
There you go. What does that mean? How do you
Exactly.
start with that?
So basically a 3:2:1 ratio between carbs, proteins, and fats.
3 is to 2
Two
is to 1.
Correct.
So
Which is 3, which is 2, and which is 1.
Which is carbs, protein, and fat, respectively.
Carbs is 3?
carbs is 3.
Yup.
Wow.
But what about someone like me with PCOS, for example?
Okay, so definitely that's a
Mga special.
exactly special
ano,
na siya kasi that's
yeah.
pathological. So meaning
Yeah.
there's something weird going on with your metabolism. So we have to make certain adjustments just so that you can feel better as well when
Yeah.
taking things. So usually with people with PCOS, it's about managing the carbs.
Yep.
So the ratio tweaks to about 2 is to 3 is to 1.
Which is what I do.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you kind of shift it. That's why you look great.
Thank you.
Nice.
There we go. Okay.
Approved by coach.
Okay, so going back to that, at least for our general viewers, right? A 3 is to 2 is to 1 ratio is the reason why carbs rank highest is because we expect you to have that stimuli or that exercise. And carbs play the role for energy. Okay?
So 3 is 2 is to 1 is applicable for those who are already active.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but it's also a good foundation for people to start eating like that right away. And also, it's very sensitive to our demographic, our current location, right? Because if you look at the Philippines, what do we love?
Rice.
Exactly, right? So that's why it's 3 is to 2 is to 1. Because limiting rice in this country,
Mababaliw ka na. Maging cranky ka.
It's a crime.
it's a
Yeah.
crime. And we don't even like register a meal as a meal if there's no rice.
Yeah. And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, is there such a thing as like a carb addiction?
Psychologically, it can.
Psychologically.
Yeah, but physiologically, like how your body works, it's not a drug. So there's no
Okay.
addiction to
Yeah.
it. And for a fun fact as well, a person's body can actually live without carbohydrates. So that's why there exists like diets like
Keto diet,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they're still alive, right?
Yeah. Which I've tried, and when you side note, when you do these diets, parang it makes you so acutely aware of what's inside your food, because calorie in, calorie out, diba? So like counting macros. I used to count all of the stuff that I would eat on an
Oh, really?
app.
Wow.
Yeah.
What app do you use?
Oh my gosh, calorie counter. I forget.
MyFitnessPal.
Yes.
Ah, there we
Yes.
go.
That's the one. That's the one. And I think it also has different psychological effects, because then when I look at food, I just see.
That's also my struggle. Like
Diba?
parang when I eat chips, I
Right.
feel so guilty after. Na parang,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's not healthy to have that kind of relationship with food. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said about relationship with food, it's actually very important to set that up as a foundation first before you even dive into things like calories and macros and stuff. So if you have someone that you have an eating disorder or something, you have
Yeah.
this really bad relationship with food.
Don't count calories.
Don't count calories first. Okay? It's gonna make it worse. You're just gonna go through a roller coaster of emotions where, at the end of the day, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
That's why I
fix-
stopped.
Yeah,
Instead, I just went by feel na lang. So like I mentioned kanina, like every time I eat, parang I kind of gauge how I feel after. Because as someone with PCOS, for example, I can feel the effects.
Right away.
Right away almost. Like my eyes get glassy and red. I feel so lethargic. Like I'm going to pass out talaga. Like my eyes droop, ganon. And then I can feel my face throbbing.
Right. So that's the power of nutrition actually in effect.
Yeah.
Right? So in terms of what's happening to you, those symptoms that you feel, when I said that carbs are energy, they are if your body is able to use them
Yun.
correctly.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing with PCOS is that there's something called insulin resistance. Okay? So it's a very technical term, but you usually hear insulin where? In diabetics,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So insulin basically is responsible for taking the sugar digested by the carbs in your bloodstream and converting them into energy.
The energy.
Right. So people with PCOS, the problem with that is that energy in your blood stays there. But it doesn't get used by the cells to become energy.
There you go.
So that's why you do have to manage two things. Number one, the rate at which the carbs goes in. And secondly, the volume, the amount of carbs that you take in throughout
Yeah,
the day.
because I
That's
still
why-
eat carbs.
Exactly. That's why it
still eat-
shifts.
Yeah, I still eat it, but I have a more diverse carb intake. So I have like a little bit of rice, and then I have like potatoes or like sweet potato.
Right, more
I eat
cool
fruits. Yeah.
sources of minimally processed.
Yeah, and I'm happy
carbohydrates.
that we're able to talk about this also, because like now I can ask you, and I have so many people from my following.
Na may PCOS also.
Yeah, when they found out that I have PCOS, so many girls with PCOS can benefit from working out kasi and really being like having a healthy diet and having this knowledge. So I'm glad that we could touch up on this.
Because you would feel the difference. Like this entire mid-afternoon slump that most people experience after eating a huge meal. It's not even, for people who have PCOS, it's not even about having a huge meal. Just getting like a cup of rice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like an hour after, you feel like you got hit by a truck.
Yes, I do talaga.
Right? And then the entire afternoon of
Wala na.
productivity, it's gone.
Wala
Until
na.
5 o'clock, wala na yan.
That's it,
You're
yeah.
out. Right? So, yeah, basically that's the role of carbs. So it's very, very important that you have carbohydrates in your diet. And for people who start off, because usually that's a typical adjustment eh. I start working out, I want to lose weight,
Yeah.
I cut out carbs.
Yeah.
And then I feel like crap.
True.
Coach, I have a question. You said 3, 2, 1, diba? Can you give examples of the carbs na healthier and more
Ay,
nutrient
maganda yan.
dense? And then yung
Right.
protein also that you can recommend, and also fats?
Okay. So, if you look at the 3-2-1, think of it as a plate, right? So, if you divide your plate into what? 3 plus 2 plus 1 is 6. Divide it into 6 parts, like a pizza, right? So, a third of that simply should be composed of carbohydrates. Now, what are the healthiest source? Now, I'm not saying the most practical. They're not going to be there 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But I suggest that you guys take at least maybe 80% of the time. Okay, meaning if you eat 4 meals in a day, get the 3 meals relatively
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The other one could be like just
Like a snack,
yeah.
Cheetos.
Oh, Cheetos, exactly, right? So that you have this
Para
good.
balanced life.
Oh, exactly. That's how
Yeah.
you define balance.
So you're not
right?
sad, diba?
Exactly. You're
Saka
not
realistic. It's really hard to be like clean the entire time, diba? Unless you have a competition or what.
Yeah, exactly. If it's a sport, syempre, the goals shift. Right?
Mas
That's why-
sustainable yung realistic.
Diba? That's why you always ask, what's your goal? Kasi I'm gonna put myself as a coach differently if you have a different goal.
Right.
If you come in as a competitor, I'm gonna be like, no, you're not gonna have that. Yeah, but if it's someone who's like, you're not competing, so it's
Why
fine,
pa,
right?
yeah.
So going back to it, sources of carbs, basically whole minimally processed carbs like more whole grains like brown rice, red rice, and even the grains that
Adlay, is that-
yeah, exactly, the grains that we don't really have usually. So adlay, quinoa.
See, I got that from my dad, Adlay.
There we go, right? So these digest more slowly with your system. So it gives a more trickled release of energy as opposed to one big burst.
Okay, may question ako. I'm sorry if it might sound ignorant. Yung salad ba, is it considered a carb?
Yeah, actually, vegetables are carbs. But in terms of profile, a typical half cup of rice gives about 25 grams of carbohydrates. Whereas vegetables, if it's starchy or leafy, gives roughly between 1 to 5. That's it.
I remember when I was eating.
So it's super low.
Yeah, I was doing keto before. I would have to eat like 6 cups of leafy greens, mga ganon.
Kambing.
Oo, grabe.
Ayun. So, but at the end of the day, right? So, managing that carb intake, so that's one of the sources. But also, like what Inka was taking, like root crops. These are very nutrient rich and very filling as well. So, potatoes, sweet potatoes, things
Carrots,
like this. Carrots,
ganyan,
exactly.
yeah.
These are really good sources of carbohydrates as well. That will give you that IV drip of energy, as opposed to like,
Now
Here's
it
all
makes
your
sense. Now it makes sense. Specifically that analogy with the IV drip.
Parang slower and steady.
Slow release siya. Kasi it does feel like, so for people watching now it makes more sense why it's also good to eat those kinds of like more complex kind of carbs.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like a slow release instead of just like a bam and then you're done.
yeah, exactly.
May crash afterwards, no? Like, if yeah. Yes.
Exactly. So, but there is one single area where faster releasing carbohydrates or more processed carbohydrates are more beneficial.
Like?
And that is after your workout.
There you go.
okay.
Okay? Because that insulin response thing, the moment it shuttles energy into it, that's very anabolic. Anabolic is basically a term that it builds you up. It helps you recover faster.
It
So
builds
that's
you
why
up.
that's why you have to eat ba right away, like 30 minutes within.
Yeah,
like,
that
after a
entire
workout.
post-workout feeding
Yeah.
window thing. Well, actually, it's a barn door, meaning you can eat longer. You don't
Oh,
necessarily
nice.
have to eat like within 30 minutes or something.
Okay, good.
But that's very dependent on
On your body also.
on your body and what you do. So if you have 2 trainings in a day, hardcore athlete ka, morning, tas evening pa, yung talagang baka naghahabol ka ng wedding.
May ganon? May
Oo,
ganon?
baka naghahabol ka beach trip in like a month, so you're going extra effort. then yeah, that becomes a thing where you really need to eat as soon as possible because you only have a couple of hours before you need to perform again.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But if not, yeah, you can take your time and it's still a post-workout meal, so you'll be okay.
I think that concept of like you have to eat to lose weight or
Yeah.
like to be fit is something that's so confusing for
It's
people.
so hard. Parang ang daming kailangan i-break or i-shatter na
Yes.
preconceived notions about it.
Yes. And it's so cool because like I remember there was a time because I do boxing. I do
Right.
boxing 3 times a week for like an hour, and then the hour after that I do strength training.
Oh wow, it's a back-to-back session, yeah.
Back to back ako. Mornings lang because that's the only time that I have. And there was a point where I was eating a lot, but I kept losing inches.
Right.
Nice.
But
I
not
love
weight.
that.
There we go. That's body composition.
I love that. Oh, yeah.
Right? So that means that's exactly what I was talking about earlier about the pockets in your bag. So you have that stimuli. So things are being put in the right places. So you would see that your body is changing without changing your mass, your weight,
Yeah.
per se. But you see your stomach getting leaner, your
Yeah.
arms are getting more toned,
Yeah.
right? Your legs are firming up, your butt is even getting more shapely, right? Things like that. So that's the power of macros. Right?
Galing.
So, Coach, you mentioned sa carb side, diba? How about the protein and the fats? What are good examples for that?
Great.
Oo,
Okay.
tama.
So proteins and fats. So usually proteins are vehicles for fats as well. Because like, how else are you gonna cook your proteins, right? Proteins are your typical meats. So chicken, fish, pork, beef, egg, milk, cheeses, all those. Yeah, even milk. So milk does contain protein. But the thing with milk is that it also contains a little bit of carb.
Ah, okay.
And a little bit
fat.
and fat, depending on the type of milk, right? You have
Right.
skim, you have whole.
So would you say that milk is a full meal?
Exactly. It is quite a full balance nutrition item,
Okay.
right? So what is protein for anyway, right? So protein is actually a recovery macronutrient. So typically you use protein for everything in your body. Your hair, your skin, your nails, those are all protein.
Oh.
Right? Keratin, you heard of
Right.
that, right?
Collagen.
Collagen.
Wow.
Yep. Those are subconstituents of protein.
I didn't know.
So if you lack protein, here's a fun fact. If you see people walking around, they haven't dyed their hair, but it's turning ash blonde for some reason. Not you.
Yung natural ash blonde.
Yung natural ash
Dahil
blonde. Okay. Yung hindi ombre. Ganon. Okay. And you would think that people who are less fortunate, right? You see in the streets. You wonder like, nasa pambili ng pagkain pero may pam-dye sila ng buhok?
Oo. I thought it was just also the sun.
No, it's not. It's malnutrition.
No way.
Yeah, because even the pigment in your hair, that's protein. So
didn't
if you
know
constantly have lower protein intakes, there's a difference between living and thriving.
Right.
Living is you're just surviving from day to day.
Right.
Thriving is you're constantly growing, recovering. So that's actually the action for protein, wherein number one, it helps you repair. Repair is not growth. Repair is you are here. You
Yeah.
broke it down somehow, you go back here.
Repair is fix.
Exactly.
Right.
Grow is you are here, then you go get better.
Right.
So that's actually why having a good protein diet or enough protein in your diet should give you more optimal health, because with all the activities that you do, you break down your muscles and then you have a lot of stress in your work. So you know what else is like made out of protein? White blood cells. Right? Everything in your body is protein.
that.
So if you have lower protein intakes, you're more prone to illnesses, you're more prone to diseases, you get sick more.
Yes.
So
Ang galing.
yeah, right? So having protein in your diet is good.
Yeah.
Essential, no?
Essential. That's why I said kanina, it's only the carbs that are typically non-essential. You live without it. But will you grow without carbs? Not really. You won't perform up to your optimal.
Right.
But you can live without.
Right.
Whereas protein, that is essential.
Need
you
talaga
need
siya.
that to live.
Yeah.
You don't have protein at some point, everything starts going haywire.
Right. Right.
Okay? So same thing as fats. Now fats are essential to your diet too, especially for women actually, because all your hormones right? You deal with your hormones as a monthly battle, right? You get your PMS, you get your period. You
Lalo
get
ng mga PCOS
bloated.
girlies,
Oh,
it's
mga PCOS.
insane. Because PCOS is a hormonal disorder.
Exactly, right? So fats actually play the key role in that. Wherein fats are the ones responsible for making hormones. Because cholesterol is a fat,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So without enough fat, because like most people either go one way or another, wherein they start, I cut out carbs. If they don't cut out carbs,
They go low
which is
fat.
they go low fat. Baliktad naman. Eh, but the thing constant with diets is protein. If you notice.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Almost all diets have protein. And the only thing that they change in terms of macros is either carbs
Yeah.
or fat.
Because even vegans, like they don't eat meat or animal
Yeah.
products, but they find a way to get protein.
Exactly.
Plant protein, no?
Oh, plant protein. But either way, for weight management, they still take out either carbs
Or fat. Yeah.
Right? So that's why a foundation of a balanced diet between proteins, carbs, and fats would be very, very helpful. At the end of the day.
Right.
So, Coach, kasi Inka and I were both very active, di ba? And very on the go. So, how can we make this more manageable na yung 3-2-1?
Right.
Any tips?
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, I have 5 very helpful tips for you, ladies, to actually get this started very
Okay.
easily. Okay. Number 1, don't skip meals.
Okay.
Okay. Why? Because if you keep skipping on meals, there's no difference anymore between dieting, good nutrition, and just starving.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So don't skip meals. I would say eat every 4 hours or so, maybe 3 to 5 as an average, because the human stomach empties every 2 to 6 hours, depending on how much you ate.
What are your quick thoughts on fasting? Yeah.
Right.
Fasting.
Fasting, you could do it sometimes.
Okay.
But ultimately, it won't be sustainable because sometimes you do have events
Right.
early in the morning
Right.
or later at night. So it's a method. So remember this, principles are few, but methods are many. As long as you know the principles, you can find your own methods.
I like
Yeah,
that.
me too.
Okay, so there. Number 2, protein is essential, so we need protein every feeding. So strive to
Every feeding.
The first thing that you think, you sit down, you're gonna eat. What am I gonna eat?
That
You
has
start
protein.
with protein.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Number 3, carbohydrates. Okay, so carbohydrates, because you're gonna use that as a source of energy. So you start thinking, okay, I have protein. What am I gonna pair my protein with? Right? So you start asking yourself questions like, do I have an upcoming activity? Am I gonna use carbohydrates? In that case, you eat more.
Right. Carbo loading.
Somewhat, yeah. Just added more carbs just so that you can perform. If you're not gonna do anything, you eat less.
Yes, for days na medyo rest days lang,
Yeah,
pwedeng less.
exactly.
But for days na active and you're working out, you
Go.
can get more.
Right. And we're not even talking about specific numbers here because everybody's different. So you start with whatever you have, whatever you do. Let's say you start with 1 cup rice. You don't have an activity, go half. You
Yeah.
have an activity, go 1.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Actually, that's what I say to people, side kwento. When people ask me, how much should I eat? I always tell them, what applies to my body might
Will
not,
not
apply.
apply to you,
So you
exactly.
have to figure out but where do I start? Start with the normal 1 cup. See if you can eat more. If you need to eat more, see if you can eat less. Up to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So going further from that, number 4 is that we're talking about fats. So I did mention fats are very healthy for you because optimal health, right? Cholesterol, hormones, right? Strive to aim for plant-based fats, meaning use cooking oil like olive oil, coconut oil, have a lot of nuts, seeds into your diet, things that we
Right.
typically Filipino diet we don't even touch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So add those things, avocados.
But what about
things like that.
butter?
Right? You can fit that in a healthy diet, right? So I did mention earlier that you want to strike a balance between about 80% and the 20%.
Right.
80% of the time, you stick to good stuff. And 20%, just let loose a little. It's still part of the 100%. So you're
Okay,
not really
nice.
cheating.
So butter on a slice of wheat bread.
Sure. Right. It's balance.
Yeah.
But hey, you forgot about the protein.
Egg.
Egg. There we go. Right? So you can do that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes a healthier version could be like avocado and egg on toast.
Yeah,
So
yum.
now
Avocado
you just leveled up
toast.
your
Yes.
nutrition. And number 5, which builds up on that avocado, egg, and toast is fiber.
Yun, fiber. That's
Super
what we haven't talked
important.
about.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, who wants to feel bloated every single day? Na
I
may
don't.
Problema ka sa stomach if you're not
Yeah.
regular, right? So fiber, you try to aim for about 5 servings a day.
So
Okay.
what does fiber do exactly?
Okay, fiber actually does a lot of things. That number one, it helps manage your cholesterol. And second, for weight management, it helps you be more full, more satiated.
Right.
Right? It's bulk to your
Yeah.
diet. So
Yeah.
going back to what I said earlier, right? A half cup of rice is 25 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
Vegetables give what, 1 to 5. That means you can
Right.
eat 5 times more vegetables than that.
Yeah.
So basically, a serving is typically half a cup, about the size of your fist, okay, or 1 cup if it's leafy, right? Maybe a fourth of your plate. So getting 5 servings isn't really that hard as long as you have vegetables every meal.
Yeah.
Don't skip meals and have fruits with your snacks.
Fruits. Love fruits.
Right? So
Yeah.
as long as you have all those 5, you get started with that. Actually, these are things that you can do right away, right?
Yeah.
So for our viewers out there, right, you can actually start doing this, right? If you can pace yourself, you can start with 1 at a time if you feel like it's overwhelming, or if you're more advanced, then start with all 5.
Yeah.
It's very, very manageable. You just have to be more mindful of what you put
Exactly.
inside your body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I
Thank
like
you,
that.
Coach.
All right, great. So I hope you guys learned a lot of things today. And for our next episode, we are going for the common myths, misconceptions. So we're going to
Perfect.
myth busting.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right.